From an early age, I was what some folks might label as a delinquent, a troublemaker. I was the kind of guy who'd always be found around the wrong crowds, getting entangled in nefarious deeds, perpetually causing chaos wherever my footsteps fell. Even though most of the things I was involved in could easily get anyone sentenced to prison for a couple of years, I had thankfully managed to evade capture. That is, until the day me and some of my friends stupidly got Mr. Anderson's garage on fire. Some friends of mine, if you could even call them friends, were hanging out when one of us had the brilliant idea of breaking into Mr. Anderson's garage to smoke some marijuana. Once we found ourselves inside, competing to outdo each other and seeing which one of us could drag the longest, one of my friends bumped into some tool supplies, causing them to fall. The loud clattering from the supplies caused whoever held the joint to drop it, thus igniting the flammable fumes. My so-called cohort scattered in the panic, abandoning me amidst the chaos. After narrowly getting around the escalating flames and flinging the door open with desperate urgency, I was met with the garage's owner, Mr. Anderson. His face bore a deep hue of anger, perfectly complementing his disheveled bathrobe. With a swift, aggressive motion, he grabbed me by my collar, hurling me out into the safety of the open air. He then retrieved a fire extinguisher, smothering the raging flame. With the fire subdued, he wasted no time calling my parents. The ensuing retribution I faced at the hands of my mother was nothing in comparison to the penance that awaited me. Opting not to get the law involved, a deal was struck between Mr. Anderson and my parents. To make amends, I'd have to get a summer job, ensuring every cent went to mending the damage to his property. To say I viewed the arrangement with resentment would be putting it mildly. After a tedious search through various job listings in collaboration with my parents, we collectively settled on a pizza delivery driver. The job requirements were straightforward: 17 years of age and a legitimate driver's license. The work, in its essence, wasn't the worst thing in the world. Often, I'd sit around awaiting orders, then go out on deliveries. The pay wasn't all that good though, but the added perk of being able to keep my tips was a bonus. Except, nearly every tip I got found its way to the garage repair fund. I'd say the only downside of the job was the long hours and the ever-challenging act of managing human confrontations. It might come as a surprise, but some folks go absolutely crazy over the smallest imperfections in their orders. Forget to bring the drink? Prepare for the damn fireworks. I've faced enraged shouts, had doors violently closed in my face, and even encountered those audacious enough to refuse payment, yet demand their meal. Weeks into this routine, as another day neared its conclusion, a late order buzzed in. It was close to 11 p.m., and I was on the brink of clocking out when my boss flagged me down. Groaning inwardly, I accepted. As I waited for the pizza to be ready, I mulled over my predicament. What surprised me wasn't just the timing, but the simplicity of the order itself: a small cheese pizza. It might strike you as odd, but had I been the one ordering at the brink of closing, I'd opted for a full-blown feast, with sides, drink, and all of it. But I digress. I finally headed out. I input the delivery address into my phone's GPS, and was nearly compelled to fling the pizza out of my car. The destination was far, way out of the town's outskirts. This had better come with a big tip, I mused. The journey itself was uneventful. The streets, bathed in the glow of the moon, grew more desolate as I distanced myself from the town. Arriving at my destination, a peculiar unease enveloped me. The house, though covered in darkness, seemed typical, yet the same dread that gripped me when confronting Mr. Anderson in the blaze of his garage suddenly resurfaced. Readying myself, I walked towards the front door. Just as my knuckles prepared to announce my presence, my eyes landed on a note adhered to the door. It read, "They're asleep. Enter. Money's inside." I entertained the thought of just pitching the pizza at the door, but I instead cautiously turned the doorknob. The cracks as I opened the door were loud. It felt as if my every attempt at being quiet only made me louder. Stepping within, what immediately struck me was the home's emptiness. The expansive living room played host to just a lone table with no chairs. Approaching the table, another note came into view. Right next to the payment for the order, there was a little scribbled note that said, "Thank you," and it did little to help my escalating irritation, especially when I realized that they were shortchanging me, and, adding insult to injury, no tip. Visions of setting the house on fire briefly danced in my mind, but swallowing my wrath, I bellowed into the house, dismissing the prior instructions. "Hello? Delivery here," I said loudly. Silence. In a last-ditch effort, I knocked on the front door from within. That's when an unsettling sound reached my ears. A faint, muffled whisper, echoing from the depths of a distant corridor. My mind was torn between the drive to collect my rightful money and the urge to leave. With renewed determination, though, I blitzed down the hallway, throwing doors open in a fury. But with each vacant room, my motivation for monetary justice was replaced by an overwhelming urge to leave. 2 barren bedrooms and an empty bathroom later, I exclaimed with frustration, "Fine, keep your fucking pizza." Yet, as I was about to leave, that whisper caught my ear again, coming from a door to my left. Hesitantly, I opened it, revealing a staircase descending into darkness, a basement. With a more concerned tone now, I called out, "Hello? Your pizza's here." A woman's voice whimpered back, only saying 2 words that sent chills down my spine.
"Help me."
Without hesitation, I dialed the police, explaining my bizarre situation, that I haven't received the money for the pizzas, and that I heard someone calling for help from inside the house. They just told me to wait outside, and that they would send a car right away. Sure, I've earned my reputation as a troublemaker, even an arsonist on occasion, but I couldn't simply turn a deaf ear to a desperate plea for help. I hesitated at the top of the staircase, its creaking wood threatening to crumble beneath me. Gathering my nerve and illuminating the path with my phone's flashlight, I walked down into the darkness. The basement floor was slick, smeared with a substance, perhaps a result of pipes dripping from above. As my phone's light swept the room, it landed on her, a woman bound to a metal pillar, her body marked with bruises. Instinctively, I approached and freed her, all the while whispering words of reassurance. Assisting her up the stairs, we were met with an intense beam of light and authoritative voices commanding us to stop, causing me to nearly lose my grip on her. The police had arrived. I explained to them what happened, and they led both of us to safety. All the while, other officers combed the premises, but ultimately, their search yielded nothing. As we waited for the situation to be resolved, I took a moment to dial my boss, explaining what had happened, and firmly expressing my intention to never return to the job. The officers, after taking my statement and expressing their gratitude, informed me that I was free to go. The community began hailing me as a hero, a savior of sorts, even Mr. Anderson, granting me a reprieve on the money owed after hearing what I had done. I didn't feel like a hero, though. It was just luck. A follow-up from the police a few days later intensified this feeling. They disclosed that the girl was also a delivery driver who had been reported missing just 2 days prior. She recounted her experience, explaining her abduction during a routine delivery. The chilling detail was her admission of never seeing her captor's face or hearing their voice. The weight of this revelation settled heavily within me, recognizing that our fates could have easily been switched. Her very survival might have hinged on my entry into that house. I grappled with endless questions. Why wasn't it me bound in the basement? Why was she seemingly left for me to discover? Who was behind the order? The mysteries deepened when, just yesterday, I stumbled upon a note at my doorstep reading, "Thanks for the pizza." And now that I think about it, when I was being ushered out of the house by the police that night, I don't remember seeing the pizza that I left on the table in the living room. My wife has been in an inpatient unit for a few weeks now. It breaks my heart, but we can't currently have her at home. I've been juggling 0 paternity leave, taking care of the baby, taking care of her, and just trying to survive this hard time for my family. I wanted to share her journal entry that staff shared with me, in hopes that it may help another family recognize the signs and, more importantly, the risks sooner than I did. 6th of February, 2024. I'm a new mom, but I don't know where my baby is. I hear phantom crying at all times of the day, and all hours of the night, while I lay in a strange bed, in this cold and sterile room, unable to sleep. That shrill, incessant, terrible noise constantly claws at my eardrums. I feel the blood seeping slowly out of my ears, and these people keep telling me there's no blood there, but I know they're lying. They're lying directly to my face. They don't care about me. They want to see me suffer. There's no baby to soothe. It's just me here, and my kidnappers who come in sometimes. I want to clamp my hands over my ears as tight as they will go, until I can both hear and feel my own heartbeat. But I know nothing can block out the crying. I couldn't cover my ears anyway, because they have me chained up. The people who took me are not kind. They are bad, bad people. They poke me and prod me. They leave me here lying in my own filth. They come and clean my bed, and then just leave me once again. ignoring my cries and pleading to please, for the love of God, let me out. Once in a while, they will let me out of my shackles. They chain me back down though when I fight back. I managed to get a chunk of hair off of one of them. I didn't see that one again. She was crying when I ripped the stupid hairs from her skull. But why was she crying? She's the one who took me away from my baby. I don't remember when I got here. I can't fathom how they managed to take me. I don't even remember my baby's face. I remember my husband though, and I hate him. That son of a bitch just stood there and watched me as they carted me away while I was screaming and thrashing, attempting to break free. I remember seeing pretty lights as they threw me in the back of their van. That van is where the torture started. They shoved needles into my arms and injected me with things. I blacked out, and when I came to, I was chained to the bed in this unfamiliar room. I spent what felt like days, weeks, months awake, staring at that disgusting brown patch on the ceiling, being driven crazy by the drip, drip, drip of the broken faucet in the corner of the room and the never-ending sound of an inconsolable baby. I just wanted to find that stupid kid and shut it up once and for all. I couldn't listen to another second of that unending crying anymore. I know they're watching me. I can see the cameras they have all around me. I think they're experimenting on me, because whenever they come in, they inject me with those unknown liquids that make me feel funny, that make me feel enraged, that make me lose time, lose memories of what it is they're doing to me. There are other victims here. Sometimes they even make us see each other. Some of the others are more calm than I am. They must be the ones who have been here the longest. They're even nice to our assailants. They chat with them and laugh with them. I don't understand it. Why would you be so friendly with these people? We should be working together to find a way out. I decided they must be pretending, so I decided to pretend too. They must be onto something, because when I play nice, they're more lenient. Today, they actually let me have some paper and a pencil, but a dull one, probably anticipating that I may shove it into one of their jugulars at the first opportunity. Not only are they bad people, but they're idiots too. They kidnapped me, and thought I wouldn't use this opportunity to tell people the atrocities I'm suffering at their hands. They thought I'd just continue to sit back and take it, and tell no one? I called my husband yesterday to tell him how much I hate him. He told me they're just helping me. What an awful man. They're not helping me. He won't help me. I wonder if he even ever loved me. I seriously doubt it. I'd never let something like this happen to someone I love. He keeps telling me I might hurt my baby, but I would never do that. I don't know where I am. I'm so scared that I will never get out of here, and I'll need to continue to endure this unrelenting torture. I have no hope of getting out. The windows are bolted shut, and there are even bars on them, further cementing that this is a prison sentence. This must be a professional criminal organization. They have me. Someone, please, please save me. I just want to see my baby. I need to know he's all right. Kids are cruel, but the teacher should have known better. I went to one of those religious-type schools, the ones that trade school fees for brainwashing your kid. For us, every Christmas meant that we had to put on a play, act out scenes from the Bible. Everyone wanted to play the all-star cast, Jesus and his 12 chums. Well, 11 of them. I wasn't a super popular kid, I guess. I faded into the background easily, but I never felt targeted, ostracized, or victimized. That sure did change, though. We all knew the stories of Jesus healing the lepers. We had no real understanding of what a leper was, except that they were shunned by all others, and somehow this was acceptable. Surely enough, the school play was to be the story of Jesus healing lepers, and of course, nobody wanted to play the leper. There were literal shrieks from the class when the teacher asked who will play the leper, not really out of maliciousness or disgust, but rather an energetic expression of a response we had only read about. The teacher quieted the class with a stern word, and then proclaimed that I would be the leper. This brought back the shrieks, but with an extra edge of mirth. With the first wave of shrieks, I was inside the group, a collective action. This time, though, I was on the receiving end, and I could sense at the very least the shadow of what was to come, and a hollowness opened up within me. Rehearsals were a farce, giggles erupting at every scene with the leper in it. It was the night of the play where it really started, the days previous merely serving as a preview to the main event, in both the play and also my fate. The house lights were low. The stage felt like a ship at sea, bathed in the colored stage lights from above. The audience were the occasional reflection from a pair of glasses, and no more. It was at that critical moment, as Jesus was supposed to reach out his hand and heal the leper. Right at that moment, that boy pulled his hand back and squealed, "Gross! A leper!" The rest of my class broke down into giggling there on stage. But from the ocean of darkness that was the audience, waves of laughter poured over us. I'm sure my teacher quieted things down quickly enough, but in my memory, that moment went on far too long. That wave of laughter was not benign. It was an explosion of pent-up energies, a raw hunger, a sacrifice to some more ancient gods, and I was the lamb. The play wound down to a close, and I shuffled around the murmurs from all sides. Leper. This followed me for the entire rest of my schooling. I was the leper. I was shunned. No one wanted to sit with me. No one wanted me in their team. People would recoil if I came near, shriek with a combined horror and glee, and shout out, "Leper!" There would be the braying of laughter from all sides as a response. People would move on, happier in their day. My destruction took time. The human soul is more robust than we might figure, and it takes repeated effort to truly break a person. But it can be done. It was done. I don't rightly know at what point I became the leper, but I did. Total strangers could look into my eyes and they knew me to be unclean. My attendance in class was somewhere between an uncomfortable presence and a comical performance. When I simply ceased to show up in class, no one came looking. It was not a conscious choice on my part. I just seemed to drift away. An untethered balloon caught in a crosswind. I drifted away from life. I picked up a few jobs over time, stuff where I was out of sight of others, but mostly I just drifted away. I discovered alcohol more by accident, as I combed through a garbage bag looking for some scraps to eat. The antiseptic burn, followed by the numbness, felt like a sweet relief. I sought it out wherever I could. That was my life. I served the purpose of being the town leper, that vile thing people could recoil in revulsion from, then uncoil into a new and comfortable shape, all blessedly guilt-free. I was the leper. I was huddled in the side entrance to a closed-down cafe, sheltering from the rain when I saw him. He was going bald, and he had a swollen pot-belly, but it was the very same boy that stood in front of me, that effigy of Jesus, and cursed me to be the leper upon that stage so long ago. I only glimpsed him for a moment, and he was attempting to shelter from the rain under an umbrella, but it was definitely him. Perhaps he had walked by me 1,000 times, and I had every time failed to look up from the gutter to see him. Perhaps. I found myself on my feet, trailing behind him. Observing someone else for the first time in the longest time felt like this strange dislocation. For how many years had my vision not raised above the gutter, or beyond a bottle? He reached a car, a dark blue Volvo, and a nice new one at that. Curvy, not like those old blocky types that seemed to be around forever. My memory scribbled down the license plate somewhere safe, and I watched his trajectory as he left the parking space. My feet followed on autopilot. I drifted through neighborhood after neighborhood like a ghost, the world a rain-hushed backdrop, and my entire life the intermission. The picture-perfect suburban house that sat peacefully behind that dark blue Volvo was a perfect match. How can anyone think this is real? Of course, the door was unlocked. Of course it was. And there he was, snoring away in an armchair in front of a muted television, a token beer bottle on the nearby table. Well, he would wait a few moments longer. First, I made sure that we would not be interrupted. I brought him to consciousness gently. Slap, slap, slap on his cheeks. Wakey, wakey. As his eyes fluttered open and he saw me, his lips started to form that word before his brain had even awoken. I could see it. I could see that word crawling up his throat. Leper. I stopped it stillborn with a punch into his larynx. Don't you dare. Don't you fucking dare. There, I saw it. I saw the serpent of fear twisting behind his eyes, finally, and I confess it was delicious. It took all my willpower to not simply descend into a fury and rip him asunder. Instead, we talked. Well, he talked. When we finally got down to it, he needed a little encouragement. That was okay though, because I had already found his tool shed while we slept. Why? That was the real question. The thing I could never fathom. I could accept that all kids are monsters. This I knew well. All adults are, after all, monsters also. But it still didn't answer the question. Why? Why did he brand me as a leper, there on stage in front of everyone? His answer at first, I could not believe. I asked again. I asked in several different ways to be sure I was not misunderstanding. Each time I asked, I removed something. Fingers, toes, an eyeball. Each time he gave me the same answer, amidst the begging and squealing. The teacher told him to do it, coached him specifically to break from the script, to perform his squeal of revulsion, directed him in secret to brand me aloud upon the stage. Leper. This made no sense, but the boy, well, the man now, or what was left of the man, he was eager to explain. It was their religion, their real religion, from books they did not share with others. The silent religion beneath all the others, that faith which demands sacrifice. In hidden spaces, these people pulled strings and made plans, and they also gave sacrifices. Their gods demanded that they cast out one into the dark, and that I had been chosen. Of course, they had complied. Their gods had demanded it. How could they refuse? This revelation rocked me to the core. It sounded so unreal, so unbelievable, but it felt so true at the same time. So obvious that it had to be nonsense. I questioned more, and I got details. Ugly details. Damning details. I made a list. That night, I myself was reborn. I had entered that house as a leper, but by the time I left the house, I was healed. I was no longer the leper. Instead, I had been reborn as the 10th plague. I was not going to settle for the firstborn sons. No, not this time. This time, I had a list.